Yeah, hello everybody. So this is Vikas Agarwal from University of Michigan, and I have a case of balloon pulmonary angioplasty in a patient with distal CTEPH for everyone today. I have no relevant disclosures pertinent to this talk. So our patient today is a 67-year-old female who has chronic thromboembolic pulmonary hypertension. She was referred to us for progressively worsening shortness of breath and generalized fatigue. She's now unable to perform activities of daily living without assistance. Her 6-minute walk distance is markedly reduced at 210 meters. And her other comorbidities only include obstructive sleep apnea and hypertension. She's currently taking Selexipag and Riociguat for pulmonary hypertension therapies. Her ventilation perfusion scan, as you guys can see, she has multiple mismatched bilateral perfusion defects. Her CT angiogram with perfusion imaging shows no evidence of acute pulmonary embolism. However, she has mosaicism with areas of low and high attenuation, as well as diminutive segmental and subsegmental arteries bilaterally. Most importantly, no significant parenchymal lung disease is noted. The next step is a right heart cath. Her RA pressure is 13. Her RV pressure is 82/14. Her wedge pressure is 13. Her PA pressure is 80/27, so with a mean of 48. She undergoes a left heart cath as well. Her cardiac index is 2.8. Her PVR calculates out at 5.6, and she has no evidence of coronary disease. Her echocardiogram shows normal RV size and function. Onto the pulmonary angiogram now. So that's a baseline pulmonary angiogram of the left lung. Sorry, that's a baseline pulmonary angiogram of the right lung. And as you can see, she has significant obstructive disease. Same on the left side, however, so right definitely is worse than the left. The next steps, she was discussed. So at our CTEPH's multidisciplinary meeting, involving colleagues from pulmonary hypertension, interventional cardiology, radiology, and cardiothoracic surgery. She was felt to be a non-surgical candidate because her disease was pretty distal. She was therefore referred to us for balloon pulmonary angioplasty. She underwent a total of 5 balloon pulmonary angioplasty sessions. 2 lines about balloon pulmonary angioplasty. It's an emerging therapy in patients who have inoperable distal CTEPH. It's essentially percutaneous revascularization of occluded segmental and subsegmental pulmonary artery branches, and it's performed over 4 to 8 procedures in most patients. Interventional approach, we set a contrast volume limit for every session at 3 times the GFR, based on prior coronary literature suggesting increased incidence of contrast-induced nephropathy beyond that threshold. Radiation limit is set at 2 gray per session. Femoral vein access is used in all cases. Intravenous heparin with an ACT goal of 200 to 250 seconds is used during the procedure. 6 French coronary guide catheters, such as a JR4 or a multi-purpose, or sometimes even a JL or a CHAMP guide, is used in conjunction, so with a guide extension catheter for subselective cannulation. Contrast and radiation exposure permitting, we hope to treat multiple segments in each session, but only one lung at a time. And that's an important point. In case you have hemorrhage in that lung during treatment, you want to have the option of selectively intubating the non-treated lung. So at the time, workhorse coronary wires, such as a ProWater Flex in Xion Blue for me, and compliant coronary balloon catheters are used for the most part. Hydrophilic wires should be avoided, in my opinion. Patient is admitted for overnight monitoring, so after each session. The first session for our patient now. So the right A4 segment is cannulated selectively using a JR4 guide catheter and a telescoping guide extension catheter. Lesion is crossed with a Xion blue wire, and a pressure catheter is used to measure a baseline gradient across this lesion. As you can see here, proximally you see phasic arterial flow. Distally you see a flat line, so wedge-like tracing. That's a telltale sign of a significant stenosis in these patients. It's dilated with a 2/15 balloon. And then the same balloon is used to dilate the right A4 segment across both these subsegmental branches. So this is the final result. You see the pre-angiogram on the left and post-angiogram on the right. You can see the increased perfusion in the right A4 segment as well as the enhanced venous return in the background. The pressure gradient, so pre-BPA and post-BPA on your left and right, respectively. You can see how the distal flow has now arterialized and the phasic arterial flow has returned distal to the lesion in the subsegmental branches. We usually don't attempt to completely abolish this gradient and want to stay conservative. So given the increased risk of hemorrhage and bleeding in these cases. Onto the right A7 subsegment here, it's treated in a similar fashion, crossed with a Xian blue. It's ballooned with a 2O balloon. You can see how the flow is much improved, and you can see the venous return in the background in the post pictures. The left lower lobe now, the left A9 subsegmental disease is highlighted on the right in the still image. It's cannulated in a similar fashion. It's crossed with a Xian blue. Note the J tip of the wire in the distal subsegmental branches. That's a very important point. It minimizes your risk of perforation in these very small friable pulmonary artery branches. And you can see the left A9 segments, so before and after, on the picture on the left and right, respectively. Onto the left A5 segment now. So here we use a CHAMP guide in conjunction with a guide extension catheter to subselectively cannulate the left A5 segment. It's crossed and it's ballooned, and the post-BPA result is all the way to your right here. A bifurcation lesion in the right A1 segment. An anchor wire is used in the subsegmental branch in the middle picture, and then so another wire is used to wire the other subsegmental branch in the right A1 bifurcation lesion. These lesions are then sequentially treated with balloon inflations, and the post-angiogram is all the way to your right. So after all these treatments, so we noticed that the mean PA pressure, so in our patient, dropped from 48 to 31 millimeters of mercury. The cardiac index improved from 2.8 to 4.2. PVR came down from 5.65 to 2.29. His GFR stayed stable around 80 to 70. The contrast dose and the radiation dose is also mentioned below. The clinical course, so now the patient reports near resolution in her symptoms of shortness of breath and generalized fatigue. All these sessions were completed, so without any procedure-related complications. Her 6 minutes walk distance has gone up from 210 meters to 341 meters. So a question for everybody. So what's the best marker of adequate lesion dilatation in balloon pulmonary angioplasty? Less than 10% residual stenosis, 30% residual stenosis, 50% residual stenosis, or the presence of brisk venous return in the segmental territory? And the correct answer is the presence of brisk venous return in the segmental territory is the best marker of flow restoration in the segment being treated. It shows you that the pressure has dropped enough and the perfusion has been established. Traditional angiographic parameters such as a residual lesion severity have not been validated or standardized for this procedure. And we always want to be careful to not overdilate these branches because they're very friable, very distal, and can lead to perforation and hemorrhage. Please always remember, this is a low pressure circuit and the pulmonary arterial wall is more prone to rupture compared to its counterpart in the systemic circulation. Conclusions and learning points. For CTEPH patients, the gold standard is a multidisciplinary careful evaluation at an expert center. Pulmonary thromboendarterectomy is first-line therapy in all these patients. All these patients need to be seen by an experienced surgeon so that they can undergo an operability assessment. Balloon pulmonary angioplasty, or BPA, is currently reserved for only those who are either non-operable or not expected to benefit from surgery. It's a promising therapy, but more evidence is needed to help with patient selection and procedural planning in these cases. Thank you, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.